Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Shona Vertue and I'm about to take you through the top 5 yoga postures that you need in order to get started with your yoga practice. Let's do this. Number 1, downward facing dog, or in Sanskrit, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So for downward facing dog, we want to bring the feet hip distance apart and take the hands to a comfortable position. A lot of the time I'll say take it to shoulder distance, but for some of you, you may want to take your hands a little bit wider if you don't quite have the mobility yet to do so. If you can bring your hands closer together as well, then it is also beneficial in terms of improving that shoulder flexion. We want to make sure we spread the fingers nice and wide, push the hips back, imagining that you're drawing the hips towards the back of the wall, the back of your mat. Keep your spine long. Don't feel pressure to keep your legs straight. Allow yourself to have a little micro bend in the knees, because in downward facing dog, the priority is actually having a nice straight, long spine, not whether your legs are straight or not. Of course, if you have the mobility or the range, go ahead and straighten your legs. Now, last but not least, and probably the most important thing that I'm going to tell you about downward facing dog is to ensure that you're pressing into all 10 fingers. We want to make sure that we're not just collapsing all of our weight into our wrists, because if it doesn't hurt initially, over time, and hopefully you're going to be sticking with the yoga practice for a while, you will start to feel your wrists get really sore. So grip into all 10 fingers. Alrighty, number 2, Bhujangasana is the Sanskrit name and the English name is Cobra Pose. This pose is what is known as a back bend, and it's one of my favorite postures because it's a very active back bend. So you can come onto your stomach, place your hands by your rib cage, allow your belly to draw in, your glutes to squeeze, your tailbone to tuck down towards your heels. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. And from here, lift your chest off by drawing the shoulder blades down and back. So we want retraction, which is where the shoulder blades come in together, and depression of the shoulder blades or the scapula. This is really important. Now, for a lot of you, you may be able to back bend a little bit further here. So you can press into the hands to lift you higher. But if you do so, make sure that you're still very active in that back musculature. Number 3, plank, or in Sanskrit, Phalakasana. Now, the high plank position is basically just a high push-up position. We want to make sure, same thing, glutes are squeezed, tailbone tucks, belly pulls in, the rib cage is pulled in. We're really firming up through all 10 fingers, so squeezing into the fingertips, not just dumping all the weight into the wrists, and pushing the floor away. Now, if you find that you struggle with the core strength to hold this position or the upper body strength to hold this position, go ahead and lower your knees. But if you lower your knees, you need to make sure that you're not letting your hips sag down or push back up. We still want to have that nice long line from the head all the way down towards the knees. Number 4, Balasana, or in English, child's pose. This is a beautiful, beautiful pose. There are 3 options to do here. It's a relaxing pose. So normally when we find during the yoga practice, perhaps it's getting a little bit overwhelming, we drop our knees to the floor and we come into child's pose to just kind of recuperate a little here. There are 3 options, as I mentioned. The first one, we take the knees out wide, right out towards the edges of the mat. The feet are together, we push the hips to the heels, and we let our body drop forward, extending our arms forward. You can either rest your head on the back of your hands and allow your body to relax here, or you can keep your arms extended forward. The second variation is to bring the knees together and maintain the same alignment with your arms and your head. And last but not least, probably one of my favorites is actually to allow the arms to come down by your sides. So there's an internal rotation of the shoulders that really stretches out your back. It's very comforting to bring yourself into this, very similar to the fetal position, but it's supported by the ground. One of the main reasons that I love child's pose, any variation, is because it helps us to stretch into the back musculature for breathing. And this is really key because we've forever been told to sit up straight and to pull our shoulder blades down and back, but we've lost the capacity to really be expansive through the back of the rib cage. And that can limit how much oxygen we take in and how much carbon dioxide we put out, which in turn has its own knock-on effect to the nervous system. More on that in another video. Last but not least, number 5, Shavasana, which translates to, in English, corpse pose. Now, you might be thinking, Shona, this is pretty simple. I just lie on my back, right? And yes, You do just lie on your back, but there are some alignment cues and there are some very specific things to focus on here. The first thing I like to say is to take the feet out a little wider than usual. So let them go out a little wider than hip distance and just let the legs roll out. They will turn out naturally. Lift the hips and tuck the tailbone so that the lower back is long here, is sort of lengthened. And that's particularly important for those of you that find you have very tight hip flexors. Now, a little adjustment that you can make if you do find that your hips are tight and it's kind of pulling on your back is to just bend your knees. And if you do this variation, you take the feet out to the edges of the mat, drop the knees in together, and this allows for a nice, comfortable internal rotation, takes pressure off the lower back. Moving up the body, we want to turn the palms to face up at the ceiling. This externally rotates your shoulders, which then facilitates more opening through the chest here. We want to lift the head, tuck the chin, back of the neck is lengthened here. Eyes relaxed, closed, just focusing on every inhalation and every exhalation. Now, I don't know any other sport really, or any other physical exercise or activity that encourages and dedicates time to relaxation within the actual practice of yoga. We actually must spend time at the end of it chilling out and relaxing. And this is really, really important because we just live in such a fast-paced world where we're constantly told to work harder, to push harder, and it's in this practice that we are encouraged to just hang on, take a moment, tune into the body, tune into the sensations, notice what comes up for you, both mentally, physically, and emotionally. And it's all about cultivating awareness. In yoga, and particularly in the type of yoga I like to teach, which is Virtue yoga, a hybrid mix of lots of different kinds of yogas or yoga styles, is that we're not just trying to feel better, but we're trying to get better at feeling, because it's through that increase in self-knowledge and self-awareness, we gain more self-power, essentially. Shavasana is a big part of gaining self-awareness and just basically relaxing as well, which is always nice. Alrighty, so there you have it, the top 5 yoga postures that you need to know, particularly when starting out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button below, because I do release a huge bunch of videos on yoga, on training, on just health and fitness in general. If you want to take your yoga practice to the next level, I would highly encourage jumping on my 12-week yoga program. Hit the link below and I'll see you on the mat.